What's up, Barbarians? We are in the training room. We're going to show off some disappointing stats. We have the Flay build with nothing that is broken. And if you notice our weapons, they have damage tempers on them and not damage over time, not critical strike, just flat damage, including here as well. No damage over time. We look at our Flay. Our Flay does 1.4 million bleed damage. Before we show that off, we're going to swap out some pieces that have bleeding damage. See, we have double bleeding damage on this piece and double bleeding damage on this piece. Everything is identical, except now we have damage over time. So now we deal 1.6 million bleed damage, and our direct damage went from 12 down to, let's call that 7. And here we are using the Tyrant's Bane. Right there, we have an extra one. Let's watch the health bar go down. So this is with bleed damage, okay? So we're gonna make the enemy vulnerable with Steel Grasp. We're gonna hit War Cry, and you see, it's going down pretty decent. Not bad. That was pretty good. Now, we're gonna switch everything to straight damage tempers. Watch the difference. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to hit Steel Grasp. And do you notice it is going down much faster? Crazy. So for now on, with bleed builds, the best way to do it is with damage tempers. And that is because of the change to these Paragon nodes. Right here. Applying a bleed to a vulnerable enemy deals 45 increased damage. So what you're doing is you're just increasing your all damage stat and not your damage with bleeding stat. Because before, this said that it would increase your bleeding damage. That doesn't happen anymore. That's really disappointing. So the only reason why you want bleeding damage would be for gushing wounds. So Tyrant Bane actually scales off of damage, even though it says damage over time. Yes, enemies still take more damage over time, but to scale this, you need to increase your damage temper. The best way to scale Tyrant Bane and bleeding skills is with damage tempers and not damage over time or critical strike, straight damage tempers. That is disappointing. Damage over time stats do less damage for bleeding skills. Make that one make sense. Okay, Rend in the Pit. Rend in the Pit does okay. I need to have the same setup for Season 8, and I want to see how far we can get with Rend in the Pit with Season 8. Because I feel like Season 8 Rend is actually better than Season 9, even with the Tyrant Bane gen. I did clear Pit 70 with literally 30 seconds to spare. So instead of showing off that, I am showing off Pit 65. And I'm not going to show off the whole run, because I do also want to show off Flay and Frenzy. So with all of your bleed builds, you are going to still want to have Rupture on your bar. And you're going to want Rupture on your bar because when you use the Magnum Opus, Rupture does a great amount of damage. If we were using the Fields of Crimson, we would still use it as well. But it's still an amazing, amazing skill. Which is why we don't use the Bloody Charm, because it kind of gives damage away. And as you can see, Pit 65 is no problem. Pit 70 is also not a problem, but just takes a lot longer. I was surprised how I didn't have a lot of time to complete Pit 70. Having 30 seconds to spare was kind of surprising. So when I'm done this, I'm going to try the identical build. And I want to see how well that does in Season 8 with not maxed out glyphs. And also with probably not as good masterworking materials. Sorry, masterworking items. I do hope they make some changes for Season 9, because right now, it doesn't really feel that good. Nothing really seems special about Season 9. I really hope they make a lot of changes into Season 9, because if they keep it as is, it really doesn't feel good at all. And it's very obvious that the powers of Season 8 are much more powerful than they are for Season 9. It's quite noticeable. See, even right now, we have, in theory, the best Rend build, and you know, it's like we get the job done on Pit 65, but still, it still does lack. And of course, Flay is going to be much better. I'm going to show that off next. But Rend still needs love. I mean, the whole game kind of needs love. The overpower nerf, I really hope they take some of it back. But for all your bleed bills, Siphoning Gizmo is good. But you're gonna want to keep Rupture on the bar, and Siphoning Gizmo kind of takes away some of your damage. In theory, because when you do a Rupture, you still pull out a massive bleed. And Siphoning Gizmo doesn't allow you to do that. I'm sure the interaction with Berserk Ripping will be gone. So with Rend here, we had a 600 million bleed right there, and we killed him with a 5 billion bleed pull from Rupture. That's why it's going to be important to keep that. Go over the Rend Barb really quickly. Air of Perdition, Rage of Hairgath, Conceited, Iron Warrior, Weapon Master, Earthquakes, Intercom, Magnum Opus, Grandfather, Ring of Starless Skies, Ring of the Ravenous, and Slaking. With the Rend Barb, I did also try Shattered Vow, and because of how the damage scales, and it doesn't scale with damage over time, this actually gives less damage. Even when we put the Polearm, Executioner Glyph on, it still does less damage. This setup with Grandfather is still better. Okay, now we have the Flay Barb, and it's a similar setup, but we are going to show how much crazier that is compared to Rend. And that's why I wanted to show off the same level 65. Flay can definitely do more, but I want to show how much faster we can do it, which is absolutely insane. So Flay is going to be an amazing skill for Season 9. I didn't get to try out the solo Rupture Barb. That is something that I also enjoy. I'm curious if that is going to be better than Flay. My thoughts are yes, but I don't actually know. That's something I'm looking forward to trying in Season 9. And I can't try it now because I'm just running out of time. But yeah, we're already doing much better. Having Flay cleave is actually really cool, and I love it. And yes, if you want to put on Berserk Ripping, you can easily do Pit 150 with this. That is a broken interaction that would be wild if it didn't get fixed, so I hope it does. But for some reason, if it doesn't, I think that'll be everyone's first Barbarian build to play. But it does look like Flay Barb is going to be close to the top. Find big groups. And again, you still want to use Rupture. Rupture is still good. But this literally feels like Rend. I'm really surprised. I really want to see what they're going to do with core skills now, because core skills literally feel worse in every way. Like, literally cuts everything up like butter. The only one thing that Rend has over Flay is that Rend size is a thing, where everything has to be so close to you with Flay, but that's not an issue with how powerful this is. Okay, that second dungeon, there was a lot of backtracking. So this is not an accurate representation for the time difference. But if you look at how we are doing with the boss is literally no problem. And then when we hit Rupture, it takes a massive chunk. Look at that. And dead. 15 billion. If you're going to play Bleed in Season 9, Flay is the one to play. Harlequin Crest, Rage of Harrogath, Conceited, Might, the new boots of the Mountain God. I like these new boots. I like that basic skills now can cleave. I think that is really cool. Still, I really hope they do something great with core skills, as Flay literally feels, plays like Rend, except it's just not. Earthquakes, Magnum Opus, Shard of Rathiel, Moonrise, Starless Skies, Adaptability, and Iron Warrior. Now for the Frenzy Barb. And the Frenzy Barb. I think the Frenzy Barb is probably my favorite one. I think this one is a lot of fun, and it just seems really cool. I like how it plays, and you have decent uptime with your Wrath of the Berserker, and your Wrath of the Berserker is what really does all the damage. Before, I did try it with Steel Grasp, but Wrath of the Berserker, because of the Ugly Bastard Helm, that is so important. Without it, it literally does not do nearly as much damage. So we want to wait till we get a big pack and just go crazy. So right here, hit Wrath of Berserker. Oh, it's on cooldown. No, or the game froze. There we go. PTR, things like that happen. Find a big pack. Boom. Wrath of Berserker. It'll just crush everything. Use the Martial Glyph. Wait till you get another pack. Drag them all in. And just repeat. I have yet to find a way to make them vulnerable. We can do that with one of our Arcanas. I just didn't switch it. But this build is also very, very powerful, and you pretty much have 100% uptime on Berserking. And you almost have 100% uptime on Wrath of the Berserker. With the right cooldowns, you will. I don't know which one's better, Frenzy or Flay, but they're both really good and really fun. Okay, let's see how Frenzy is against a boss. Mind you, we still don't even have our vulnerable damage going, which will definitely help this, 100%. There we go. Frenzy's cutting him up pretty quick. Unfortunately, though, we do not use Battle Trance. Battle Trance is just not good enough. It does less damage with Battle Trance. But as you see, Frenzy still cuts him up really well. Except for this move here, that'll kill us. Alright, we can stay in the middle. No, we can't. Almost. There we go. For Frenzy, we have the Ugly Bastard, the Shroud of False Death, Hectic, Might, Mountain God, Earthquake, Magnum Opus, Shroud of Rathiel. These are actually supposed to be Topaz. Moonrise with a crap roll of ultimate damage that was supposed to be basic damage. Bold Chieftains, Ring of Starless Skies, and Adaptability. Overall, my favorite build was Flay with a close second of Frenzy. I feel like my Frenzy build needs a little bit more work to be better. I feel like it's not at its max potential just yet. Overall, my thoughts on the PTR are this is going to be the season of the basic skill. I think any one of these 4 skills are going to be amazing. I didn't try Lunging Strike or Bash. I do want to try my version of Rend from the PTR in Season 8 to see how well we can do. I could only get up to Pit 70 with Rend, and I could easily clear Pit 70 with Flay and with Frenzy. I just ran out of time to push faster. I feel Double Swing is still in a decent spot. Upheaval, I didn't even try. I don't even really want to because Overpower is the best way to scale this. And with the nerf to Overpower, I want to see if they're going to change it with our second campfire after the PTR, what changes they make, and to see if core skills will actually be viable. Hammer of the Ancients did get a buff, and I wasn't able to try that out either, but this should be an okay skill. Actually, Hammer of the Ancients might be better than Upheaval now. That's one thing I'll need to test on Season 9. Overall, I am not excited for the new Nightmare Dungeon system. It does feel kind of boring and stale, and it doesn't feel like an upgrade. It feels like something they just threw together, and Season 9 is kind of a mess. The new build options for basic skills is interesting. This new unique is cool. I enjoy it. I think it gives a new way to play the basic skills, but it does outshine core skills, so it causes a bit of a problem now because it's giving the basic skills more of an identity crisis. Back in Season 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, they said basic skills are there to generate resource to attack with core skills. And when the new tempering system came in Season 4, it gave a new way to play with basic skills, but thinking that core skills would still be better. These were like your single damage targets, and these were your AoE skills. And that kind of gave the identity difference between basic and core skills. And even when we had Moon Rising and all those other aspects, they were still only single target except for Bash, and that's why Bash was so powerful. Now that they're not just a single target skill, and they're an AoE skill similar to core skills, they outshine core skills in almost every way possible. Because of that, it makes basic skills shine, and it makes core skills feel awkward, and it kind of disrupts the balance of what the skills are for. In my personal opinion, I feel like with the new expansion on the horizon, it's going to shake up the whole game yet again, and I think we're going to get a lot more differences to our skills, and it's almost like they're shifting that any skill can do anything. And I think when a skill loses its identity, it kind of makes other skills seem kind of useless. Right now, Flay is literally Rend 2.0. Now that it can cleave, I don't see how Rend could outshine Flay. It never could, and it still won't. It's just making this more obsolete. With the changes to Frenzy, what I'm going to try in Season 9 is how Frenzy works compared to Double Swing. Double Swing right now is in a decent spot, but with Overpowers nerfed, will Frenzy outshine Double Swing? Upheaval's already outshined, and will Lunging Strike and Bash outshine Upheaval and Hammer of the Ancients? And Whirlwind's kind of in its own category, and it still needs a damage buff to do direct damage Whirlwind to make it viable. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with Season 9, with all the feedback that they're getting and all the negative feedback that they're getting. If they can actually listen to the feedback and make some positive changes, Season 9 could be surprising, and it could be a great season. If they keep it as is, I think the people who try out Season 9 are going to be quite disappointed, and player base will probably fall off quite quickly because there doesn't seem a lot now that is new compared to Season 8. Season 8 feels way better. Nightmare Dungeon escalation needs a tune-up. Strong rooms also need a change. Season 9 doesn't seem to be in a good spot. I really hope they make some changes. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and let's hope they make some positive changes, and we'll wait for the campfire chat to see what they have learned in the PTR. And I'll see you guys next time.